All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place, the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. My guest this hour, X Zone Nation, is Eileen Saint Lauren, and we're going to be talking to Eileen about her new book that is out, My Neighbor's Goodlife, Mississippi Stories. And joining us now from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, is Eileen Saint Lauren. And Eileen, welcome to the X Zone.
Hello, Rob. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Eileen, and why you decided to write your book, My Neighbor's Goodlife, Mississippi Stories.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm originally from a small, once two red light town called Petal, Mississippi. And I was born in Hattiesburg, and that's where I grew up. And I went to junior college there. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to Lincoln, Nebraska, and a few other colleges. And I went back to school at an older age compared to other students. And I found out that my calling was to write. And so everything that I wrote seemed to got published. Mm-hmm. And I won awards. And so I just continued to write. And while I was in Nebraska, and then I went on to Massachusetts, and I just continued to write, and I accumulated a lot of stories and books. And my first novel that was published a year and a half ago, called Goodlife, Mississippi, is a fictitious town with about 100 people in it. And the main character is Mary Myra Boone, and she's 12 and a half almost. She's questionably biracial. Mm-hmm. And that book was received very well. Ray Charles was one of the characters, and I had met him 25 years ago, won a writing contest, and read him the first chapter of that book. And he's her daddy's best friend, and her daddy's deaf and dumb, and Ray was blind. And so they were a good pair. And everything I write about Ray is true. And so Ray Charles had encouraged me. And this book, My Neighbors, Goodlife, Mississippi, Myra wrote it about her neighbors in Goodlife. And it's 11 stories that were Mary Myra Boone, who's 12 and a half. She's about 13 by the time she writes this book. Goes with Johnny Paul Russell, who's never been to school, whose daddy's the town drunk, Russell, and he's the janitor also at the Merchants Bank. And Margie Ann Roberts, who's the preacher's baby girl, who wears a scarf around her neck because her mother's always trying to choke her and kill her. And nobody really knows why Margie Ann's mother hates her so much, but she does. And so Mary, Margie Ann, and Johnny Paul Russell go visit their neighbors. And that's how this story evolved. And this story is fiction. However, it was really part of Goodlife, Mississippi, and I broke it in half. I had so much material, I really didn't know what to do with it. And so I had an agent at the time that said, just break it in half. And so each chapter reads like an episode of a series, you know, like a TV show. And it's 90% dialogue, because what I do, Rob, is I write God a letter and I say a prayer. I have this little ritual, not every single time, but many times. And I ask for to be fair to my characters and have a pure heart when I write. And so I hear the voices of the characters in my head, and I write what I hear, and I see them in my imagination. And that's how this book evolved. And when people read it, they believe it. And actually, I feel and I believe when I write it too, you know, but it is fiction. It wasn't my neighbors, and I didn't grow up with these people. You know, I grew up with my mama, God rest her soul. She lived to be 86. And she was a good person. And my mama could write, actually, and everything she wrote, she was sent into the newspaper. She would read something, write about it, you know, and they'd call her up and say, did you write this? And she'd say, yes, sitting right here in this chair. And her name was Stringer. My maiden name is Stringer, which means writer, reporter. And they'd say, Miss Stringer, can we publish this? And she'd say, sure. And of course they would never give her a dime. And they published a lot of her work, and it was really good. So I guess I kind of got that a little bit from her, you know, writing, because I've actually been reading and writing since I was 4 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And so when I was a little girl, we used to get the Times-Picayune newspaper on Sunday for a quarter. And I'd get out of the car and go get it when we'd go on our way to church. I was raised in the same kind of church that Elvis Presley and Jimmy Swagger, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Oprah, I think, was raised in. Pentecostal, Assembly of God. I was raised Church of God. So I believed in the supernatural, you know. And so it didn't come as a shock or a surprise to me, you know, to create these characters, you know, and when they come to me, I just feel like I'm the voice in these books, the voice of the downtrodden, the poor, and the people that nobody gave a damn about. And so Mama used to we'd get that Times-Picayune newspaper, and we would get that, and I would order all these novels out of this newspaper as a little girl. And when I got to college, I had read all of the freshman English novels except for Faulkner, and I had read them when I was a little girl, and I was like, this is college, you know. But I'm really good at that and a few other things, but not too much of anything else in college. So that must have been my calling from the beginning. I just didn't know it, and I never really had anybody to help me, you know.
Tell me, Eileen, why do you believe in the supernatural?
Why? Oh, I do, because I've actually experienced it. I've actually felt the presence of good and evil. Yeah, I actually have, in people, in places, say in houses, in areas, and some people say in one room. I had someone tell me last week that they swear there's a evil spirit. Well, I think it's an evil spirit. They think it's a cross between a good and evil. I don't think you can be both, personally. That's just my opinion. That's in one of the rooms of their house. And I said, well, who had that house before you? And then they were telling me about that. And they said sometimes that they're in that room and they pick them up by the shoulders and turn them around and throw them down.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. You know, and this person's elderly. And this person, I believe this person, you know, and I've never had that happen to me, but I have been asked by different people to go to places where they pray for different things to leave and stuff. So I actually believe that. It's not a leap for me to believe in that. So
now, do you believe that you have a calling, a supernatural calling, or a calling from spirit to do the writing that you do, and that when you write, you are channeling information from the spirit world?
I actually do. Not in all my books, because all my books are going to be very different. In my second book, which I didn't mention, called Southern Light, Oxford, Mississippi, but it does have supernatural events in it, actually. Okay, so
Hmm.
it does. So it was my second novel, and it's very different from one and three. Number two is, but I I think they come to me to finish their stories out. I mean,
Right.
I don't see them. I see them in
Hmm.
my imagination. I don't see their faces. I have to make up a face, but I hear the voice. I hear the voice very clearly, and I feel it. I feel the rhythm of the beat of their voice, and I will say this. This is funny to me, but I can feel the rhythm of the beat of their voice, kind of like in my wisdom teeth. I have all my wisdom teeth. I've never let them take them out because they're in good shape. I can feel it I guess, in my throat, in my mouth. When I write.
Right.
So I longhanded. I can write on a city bus. I can write in the grocery store, wherever it comes to me. And sometimes I used to get up and just see this little old lady walking around, with a cat, and I would write about that. And when I write about it, it gets out of my head. It doesn't bother me anymore. So I've never, if I write about whatever's coming to me or what I see in my imagination, it doesn't bother me anymore. But if I don't write about it, it doesn't stop. And if you will, this is maybe not the best choice of words, but I'll use them because most people will understand these words. It doesn't let me go
I can
until I write about it.
I can understand that, and I've spoken to a number of our authors over the years, and I've heard that quite often. That until they write it, it just stays with them, and once they put it down on paper, it kind of leaves them, and they're able to go on to the next task, the next challenge, the next book that is inspired by what they call the other side.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's not depressing. It's
Hmm.
bittersweet. You know, it's bittersweet because you laugh, you cry.
Yeah.
If they get hurt, if they get killed, it's very difficult. I wrote an agent one time. I said, I don't know how I'm gonna kill these 22 people. These 22 people got to die in New York. It's another book I have, but it's not. I'm holding on to. He said, Eileen, you said so and John is dead, hit, indent, indent. I said, that's not how it works. They have families. They have this, they have that. I have to kill these people, and it's very upsetting. And
Sure.
and but once they were killed, and the main people in the book were passed on, and their services were held, so to speak. I don't want to give away that book, but I was okay. It didn't bother me anymore, but it bothered me until I had to deal with them.
Sure.
But I might as well. I think it's like anything else in your life that you have to deal with. Just go ahead and deal with it
Or
and
as
get
Larry
on
the
with your
Cable
life.
Man would say, get her done. You and I have to
Yeah.
take our first break. Please stand by. Exonation Eileen Saint Lauren is our special guest, and her website is eileensaintlauren.net. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as the Exxon continues from our studios and broadcast center on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca.
She said, love me, undercover angel. Paperback writer. Yes, sir, oh, madam, will you read my book? It took me years to write. Will you take a look? It's based on a novel by a man named Lear, and I need a job, so I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. It's a dirty story of a dirty man and his clinging wife.
And welcome back, everyone. Eileen Saint Lauren is our special guest this hour. And Eileen, when you sent us in your information, it says your field of expertise, and your answer is, I'm a writer. I've done everything job-wise but practice medicine. What are some of the other jobs that you've done? I mean, besides being an author, an award-winning author, I might add, I've never had a response like that before. I'm a writer. I've done everything job-wise but practice medicine.
This is true. It's actually true. Well, when I was young, I used to work at a printing company that was one of my neighbors,
Right.
and I used to walk along they had a wood board, and I'd pick up a page at the time and put a book together. Then they would glue the backs of the book together and send them out to wherever they went. So I used to actually manually put books together for $5 a day.
My goodness.
I made $5. That was a lot of money for a little girl. And I did that to begin with. I mowed yards. Then as I got big enough, I did waitressing, didn't work for me. I dropped a lot of trays on a lot of people, and they told me, get out. Get out.
No
And
sense
I
of
said,
humor,
I
eh?
need this job. He said, get out now. So that was kind of the end of that. And then as I got older, I was a detective.
Really?
I was, for 16 years actually. And I was a very good detective. And I had a lot of fun. That was before people would like blow your head off for no reason, right?
Oh, yeah. Times
Oh,
have
yeah.
changed, yeah.
Yeah, you could pull your finger on people and it worked. But you cannot do that now. You may not come back with the finger to pull on anything.
The fact that you were a detective for 16 years, do you think that this had a lot to do with the detail and the way that you write and the way that you actually lay out your stories?
I do, because when I wrote all my reports when I'd arrested people, they would always call me from the corporate and the main office and say, did you write this report? And I said, yeah. And they would say, this is the funniest damn report I have ever read in my life. And they said, you wrote every single thing that happened. I was so detailed,
Right.
I really was. And I thought that was what I was supposed to do. So I was extremely detailed on everything. I do think that had something to do with it. Then after that, I became a chiropractic assistant for the #1 chiropractor in the state of Mississippi, whose parents owned PV speakers. You remember the PV? At all the concerts, those big black speakers.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The PVs.
Yeah.
And so I became his assistant. He chose me out of 254 applicants. And they taught me how to x-ray and how to walk around with Dr. Peavy. Dr. Peavy will make everything better. But that didn't work out too good either, because I had a nurse's uniform on, and, I wasn't a nurse, okay?
Right.
And I was supposed to tell these people that hurt so badly that Dr. Peavy's going to make everything. I need to not say all that right now. I was supposed to, assure, let me stop.
Okay.
I was supposed to assure people that they were going to get well, and that was not something with a clear conscience I was able to do. So what I would do is I would refer them out to a neurologist. I swear, I would refer them at the time to George Wilkerson, who actually is named the pharmacist in my first book. I named him George Wilkerson after George Wilkerson. He was a great neurologist in Mississippi. And I would refer them to him, and that didn't work. So, and I lost 22 pounds the first 6 weeks because they saw 92 to 104 people a day.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they like to kill me. They like to work me to death. But, my mother was so happy because she had always wanted me to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the white uniform on, the CA tag. They trained me, But I was not cut out to do that. Let me just tell you. I just wasn't, But, they liked me. And his parents came and met me. They had a private jet and everything. They reminded me of God Bless Them.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Addams Family. That's who they reminded me of. And I'm like, what am I doing here? So what happened was I was home. I'd lost all my jobs.
Oh, no.
And I was watching the TV, right? Me and my poodle named Jack Benny. And me and Benny was watching TV, and United States President of the United States and U.S. President Pro Tem of the U.S. Senate, John C. Stennis, was on, who the Stennis Space Center is named after. And he was the most powerful man under the president at the time. And I saw him, and I remembered something I had done for him, my granddaddy did for him. So I wrote him a letter. I'm a big letter writer. I wrote Senator Stennis a letter, and I said, look, I failed my physical for the police academy. I've lost my job. I was trying to be a nurse, and I'm not a nurse, and I'm like a really bad nurse. I tell people to go see someone else, and they say go, and get your stuff and get out. And
Jeez.
I had a clear conscience though.
Well, yes, but don't they say honesty pays?
It didn't pay me.
No, eh?
Yeah,
It
didn't pay me a dime. But you know what?
Mm.
God took care of me. It was part of my
Well, there
my
you go.
path. But you don't see that at the time.
No, you
do
don't.
not see that. All you do is get depressed and sit there and think, I have nothing and I'm going to starve.
Yes.
My dog's going to starve is what I was worried about. He was glad I was home. He was glad I was there.
Company, Mom's home.
Yeah, she won't call me every day and said, I'm on my way, and he'd be at the window waiting.
Oh.
And so having said that, I wrote Senator Stennis and asked him if he would help me. I'd gone to the junior college, and they wouldn't help me because I'd made too much money, and I didn't have any savings or anything like that.
Right.
I'm from Mississippi. I didn't. Other people may have, but I didn't. And I said, listen, I know you don't remember me, but when I was 12 years old, I stood under the only red light in Petal, Mississippi, and handed out cards for you. And my granddaddy ran moonshine in Union, Mississippi, and gave you a lot of money. I heard. And this is his name. Can you help me go back to school? And you know what that man did? That man they gave him my letter. I mean, that was a miracle right there, right? And so he called the junior college and made arrangements. He wrote me back. He became my pen pal for over a year or more and says, go, and they're expecting you. And he wrote me a nice letter. Oh. So I got in my car and I drove up there and I said, I'm Eileen. And they said, we know who you are. And it was the same man that told me, we can't help you because we just can't help you.
Right.
He had to help me then. He said, we have everything ready for you. Just sign. And so thank God in heaven that I got a suite. I got a meal card. I didn't even know what any of that was because I'd never been to school. I was a lot older. I was the second oldest person out of like about 2,000 students at that junior college. And so he made arrangements for me to go to school. And then I started writing for newspaper and everything. I wrote, won an award and got published. And that's how I learned to do that. And I kept doing that. And then I went from there. I got married and I went to Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was an editorial assistant for Hilda Raz at the Prairie Schooner. It was an award-winning journal, a poetry journal. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it used to be. I don't know if it is anymore. And I was also a commentator on NPR, and I gave tours at the state capitol for the governor. I was a chauffeur. I was a bodyguard. I was a cook. Just a couple hours, not like a restaurant cook, for a private person that needed a meal every day. And I was a shopper, a personal shopper for a lady. And I was not a companion to a lady, but I was a lady's eyes that was going blind.
God bless you.
I read her stuff. And I was a museum guard at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, which is an excellent Ivy League school. And I lived across the street from there. I also lived down the road from Kevin Eastman, who wrote the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes. When
he was married to April before they divorced, and he married a bunny, Playboy bunny. And he used to come down the road in his Batmobile. He had he owned the Batmobile. I don't know if he still does. I'm like, oh God, here they go,
Let me ask you something as a personal chef. What was your favorite meal to cook?
Oh, gee. This woman was of another faith than I was. So she wasn't easy to please. Salmon. I can cook salmon now.
Really?
I can cook some salmon. And I still can cook salmon. I think salmon is my favorite thing to cook now. And that was their favorite meal for Friday night before the Shabbat.
Gotcha. But I must tell you, you give off beautiful energy.
Aw, thank you so much.
You truly do, and I can see why you've touched so many hearts in so many different ways. And I'm really glad to hear that you were able to get help getting back into school. And wow, all I can say is that it's no wonder that you're doing the great work you're doing now.
Oh,
You certainly have the
well,
experience, and you've got the, like I said, you've got the personality. What's next for you? I mean, Pulitzer Prize nominated books, awards. What's next?
I won't. Now, I believe this is my calling, right?
Okay.
And, but this is not my dream,
Okay.
okay? But I also would like, if you want to call it a dream, I don't know how to say it, but I'll try.
All right.
I want to write screenplays. I've already written a screenplay for my second book. Actually, Southern Light, Oxford, Mississippi was a screenplay I flipped into a novel. And that was the first book that was, that people just, they say it has a Hitchcockian twist
Right.
to it.
Well,
And
I understand that there are a number of agents in Los Angeles who are just, they can't get enough good screenplays.
I lack direction. I'm winning. I'm not winning. I'm entering my screenplays into contests.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
I get a lot of good feedback.
I don't
I have
doubt it.
gotten unbelievable sentences. I'm like, did they read this? You know, I mean, did I write this? Maybe. And then they say this great stuff, you know, and I'm still in the running, actually, in the contest. That way you get noticed, you know. I have
Sure.
it registered in California at the Screenwriters Guild.
Eileen, you and I have to take our break, my dear.
What?
Please stand by. Exonation, our guest this hour is Eileen Saint Lauren, and her website is eileensaintlauren.net. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as the Exxon continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, right here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220. Don't go away.
Everybody wants to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. Paperback writer.
What's that concept?
I met a clever woman. She took my heart away. She said I've had it coming to me, but I wanted it that way. I think that any love is good loving, so I took what I could get. She looked at me with big brown eyes and said, "Ain't seen nothing yet. Baby, you just ain't seen nothing yet. Here's something that you're never gonna forget."
And welcome back, everyone. This is the Exxon. I'm Rob McConnell. Eileen Saint Lauren is our special guest. And we're here with you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight. And boy, does the week ever go by fast when you're doing this job, because you get to speak to the most interesting people in the world. And after 34 years, I still come to work with a big smile on my face, filled with anticipation, because I'm going to speak to special people each and every night. Eileen, welcome, and welcome back, and thanks for the thank you for just being you. You know, like, you're so easy to talk to, and you know, you told us about some of the jobs you've had, and we touched a little bit on the supernatural, the paranormal in the first segment. But I'd like to ask you, what is your opinion on other worlds out there that may be populated, and they're little extraterrestrials or aliens are coming to this planet? What's your take on that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Now, I've been to the White Sands Missile Range in Roswell, I think it is, New Mexico, right? Isn't it there? I've
Yep.
been there when I was younger. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know. That I don't know. I can't answer that question in good conscience. I wonder sometimes when they go to the moon, do I know? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. In my opinion, I say it again, I'm going to sound redundant. I don't know about it if they are.
But you know what?
But
It's okay to be honest.
yeah.
It's okay to be honest, and there are a lot of things that don't make sense to me as well. Like I've had guests on the show who have said emphatically that we never went to the moon. There are other guests who come on emphatically and say, yes, we have.
I can talk about the moon briefly.
Okay, please.
Senator Stennis, I asked him to appoint me to go up in Challenger that blew up.
Right. Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah. I was in shape too. Because I was going to be, I failed my physical for the police academy, and so I was still in shape. And I had written him and said, I want to go to the moon with these other people, because we were friends. And I mean, I had no problem asking him that. And he said, I wish I could appoint you, but I'm not on that appropriations committee. And so I was working at NBC as a studio production camera operator for live shows.
Right.
And I was in the newsroom, and the AP wire started going, and I went over there and I looked at the little TV monitor, and it blew up. Yeah. And I went back and I told the anchors, I said, it blew up. Nobody believed me. Nobody believed me. When I tell the truth, people do not believe me. When I create something, they believe it. I never understood that.
I can remember where I was.
Yes.
The moment I was sitting down having lunch at a restaurant in Seaway Mall in Welland, Ontario. And I was sitting at the counter, I was watching the TV, and
it was awful.
Time stood still.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I was just like numb. I think I left. I think I walked out and left, but I wouldn't have left my job, you know. But I mean, later I just left, and they just said, what? And I said, I'm not kidding. I wouldn't kid you about this. And so they all ran in there, and they said, they just started, typing and everything and pulling back then it was, paper off a computer printer. And that was the end of that. So, I was glad that I didn't go up, but it is real. I believe that we did. I have a friend that introduced me at my first book reading. Is it okay if I say his name? He won't mind.
Certainly.
Eric Ross. He lives in Mississippi, and he introduced me along with another friend of mine, Anita Brown, who lives in the Gulf Coast, Mississippi area. And Eric worked on all that, the moon and the astronauts, and he retired before the next one went to the moon. So they did. I mean, I know people that worked on all that.
Sure.
I don't know what happened. I don't know the confidentiality part of it. But I know that he made a good living doing it. He was a very brilliant guy.
There's a lot of smart people out there doing a lot of great work.
Yeah. So I know that's real, and I know, that people went. And so, I believe it. I believe they went. Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't believe it. They quit talking to me if I even mention that.
Really?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Oh, my
I'm
goodness.
Like, what does it matter,
Yeah. Tell me, what's your take on cemeteries? Do you like them, or do you
I love cemeteries.
Why? Why do you love cemeteries? Mind you, I hear people are dying to get into them these days. But
yeah. Listen, because I grew up with my mama, my grandma, my aunts, my uncles occasionally, but mostly mama and grandma and me packing a lunch on a weekday and going to the cemeteries and visiting our family.
Right.
My mama had me at 40, so I was, she was older when she had me. And my grandma with my granddaddy was already pretty much gone. He passed when I was 2 or 3. I can't remember. I don't remember him. And we would get all dressed, go to the cemetery, and spend time with everybody and talk about them, and they talk about the memories, right?
Sure.
And so I walked around, and I just got to know everybody that way from the stories. And then on my own, I would go to them. I was sort of drawn to them, I guess you could say. Now I believe in that. When I went to one of my 40-something is, I'm not going to say which one, but it was over 40 years class reunion a few years ago. I went and bought 20 flower arrangements from Walmart, little ones, to go to the cemetery and find, and, put it on people's graves. And so we got there, and my husband is not a cemetery person. And but he went with me, and he videoed everything. And it turns out that so many more people had passed than 20. like 42, like double and more. So I kept breaking them apart and, looking at graves and visiting, people. And I kept saying, I know my granddaddy's here. I know they didn't move his body. I can't find his grave. And then I went to another cemetery and another cemetery. Then I went by a friend's house, and her husband, she had his ashes. So I had to pray over them. And she was on hospice and give him a flower, and it was just ashes. She said, I said, where's Ron? She said, he's over there. I said, where? I don't see him. She said, over there on the shelf, And I'm like, okay. I said, what's he doing over there? She said, well, he died. I said, well, how did he die? She goes, he died. He went to the hospital and died. I don't believe he did that to me. And I said, oh, my God. She was on hospice. And so I said, has anybody prayed over his ashes? She says, no. And so we prayed over him, and I gave her a flower to put on him. And that was nice. And she went on to pass from COVID a couple of years later, and last time I saw her. And so then where my mom and daddy is across the street from there. And I have a good friend over there who's wonderful to go. Her name's Connie. And she goes and puts flowers on mom and daddy's grave site. And I designed the headstones and their hearts connected.
Oh.
And then mine is going to be beside them. I went ahead and put mine there, and I put writer under it before I was published in a book on it. And I said, I got to get published because my headstone says writer.
But where's your husband going to go?
And people call me, and they said, are you dead? Are you dead? I said, no. They said, we saw your headstone. Oh, my God. Thank God you're not dead. I said, well, did you look at the date? They said, no. And so that was funny to me. I thought that was sweet of them to be worried if I was dead or not and call me up. But I went to that cemetery and went to other cemeteries, and my husband says, Eileen, please don't make me do this anymore.
But Eileen, let me ask you, you designed the headstone for your mom and your dad, and you've got your name there. Where's your husband going to go?
Well, we hadn't worked that out yet. We still talk about that. His name is there. I put a plaque with his name on it in case he wants to be there. I have a sister who is going to be on the other side of me. Mm-hmm. And she just recently made arrangements for that. And different people make arrangements when they're ready.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
And I just happen to be ready all the time. I mean, I'm ready to go right now to go visit my mentors here in Chapel Hill. I just don't have anybody to go with me. And my best friend here was going to go with me, but all my friends have passed except the new ones I'm making, and that I grew up with, my neighbors and stuff, for different reasons, not all for the same thing. Okay, different ages too.
Right.
So it means a lot to me to go see them, and I feel like cemeteries that I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I used to go to let me say this. I used to go to the cemetery in Amherst, Massachusetts, and visit Emily Dickinson's grave and her daddy, Edward. And all the devil worshippers used to go and put pennies on her grave. I don't know why. And they did that. I have no idea why. Because they used to ride the bus with me. I used to ride the bus over there. And they would put empty liquor bottles on the graves. And I know why they did that, because they were over there drinking, because I saw them. And I would go over there, and I got inspired. And my character in my other book believed she was Emily Dickinson when she got dementia. And so I just feel really happy there, at peace there. And sometimes at dusk and at night, I feel like you can see other things there. I won't say exactly what, but sometimes, you remember the old saying, they said they could see blue gases.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't tell you this. When I was when I was not quite 18, I was in my teens, I wanted to be a mortician. And so I did an internship at a funeral home in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but they discriminated against me because I was a woman. They didn't feel like a woman should do that back then.
Wow.
But I did. I kept waiting by the phone. I was so excited, waiting for somebody to die. And my mother was mortified. She
Eileen,
was so mad at me. Yes,
Eileen, my dear, we've got to take our final break. Please stand by. And Exonation, we're going to come back and continue this conversation with our very special guest this hour, Eileen Saint Lauren. And If you'd like to find out more about Eileen, if you'd like to get copies of her books, please visit her website at www.eileensaintlauren.net. This is the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and we'll be back on the other side of this short break as we wrap up this first hour of tonight's show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, and my special guest, Eileen Lauren. So whatever you do, don't go away because, well, if you miss the show now, you can always listen to it by going to X-Zone Radio on classic1220.ca. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and you know what? I'm with you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Our guest is Eileen Saint Lauren, and her latest book is My Neighbors, Goodlife, Mississippi Stories. We were talking about you and I guess your fascination or your love for graveyards, and then you were going to be you wanted to be a mortician, and they didn't allow you to be a mortician because you were a young lady.
Yeah, in
Oh,
Mississippi.
that's awful.
Yeah. I wanted to be a mortician. That was my goal, like a medical examiner. I thought that was great.
But why did you want to become a mortician?
So I was wanted to find out why people died and just be that. I just wanted to learn that about people. I wanted to help them in that regard and go on to be a medical examiner, but I just didn't have the mentality either. So it worked out good, but I was very disappointed that they didn't allow me to do that. But I learned a lot.
I would imagine so. Have you ever seen someone you know passing before, during, or after
Yeah, my
from
daddy
this world
died in
into
my
the next?
arms.
Really?
Yeah, at the VA hospital in Jackson, Mississippi, about 14, 15 years ago. And he did. And so I prayed. I said, God, I said, Daddy, he fought it. He had 3 heart attacks in my arms in ICU.
Gosh.
And I prayed and said, God, please take my daddy now. Don't let him suffer anymore, because he's like me. I have a very strong mind. I have a very strong will. Okay. And I said, Daddy, please close your eyes and go to sleep for me. And he did, and he passed. And, I hated to leave him. And I was, it was odd because I didn't want to leave him, and he was already gone. I just didn't want him to hurt him. But he was gone, And they said, before he passed, they said, do you want us to feed him? I said, my sister was with me. And she said, he won't know it. I said, but I don't want him to die hungry. Yeah. And they fed him. They put Ensure, but it wasn't a good idea. So he really didn't know he was eating, but he knew I was there. He had asked for me. He broke loose of all that and was going down the hall, I was told, saying, where's my baby doll, Eileen? Where's my baby doll, Eileen? So my sister called me and said, he wants you. Get over here if you can. So I was in Northampton, Massachusetts, and I went over there and was there 3 days. It was the worst 3 days of ever. And he did pass. And my daddy, this is where I come from. My daddy passed away with $8.42 in change to his name. And he was worried about my mama not having it and getting that change and the nurses getting it. We made sure Mama got it,
Right.
My sister helped my mom and my daddy a lot my husband and I helped him as much as we could. I always feel like I should have done more. But, I write now, and I write about things that, not about them, but in homage sort of to them, if you know what I mean. I'm hoping that they, I told him before he passed I was going to write these books, but it took many, 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 many years. And so I just hope people will read the stories, because they're about people that are dead and about people that are alive. And they're about peace, and they're about death, and they're very deep. And, they come from the downtrodden. They're from people that came to me that I don't know. And I just believe that they're fresh, they're new, they're pure and original. You will not find nothing like this out there. And they can make a great HBO series or a made-for-TV movie. They tell me my screenplay is too long. Well, that's true. But you know what I said? So was Titanic. Titanic was a long movie, 3 hours, if you think about it. Because I have that screenplay. And, but, it was too long. I just don't, I need guidance. I need help. And if there's anybody that's praying out there, please pray for me that God has sent the right people to me. I have a very supportive husband that's helped me a lot.
That's wonderful.
And he encouraged me to go back to school because, being married to a writer is not an easy thing.
Well, my wife would say the same thing about being married to somebody in broadcasting isn't an easy thing. So you and I are in the same boat.
Mm-hmm. And it's know where I'm coming from, right?
I sure do. And the boat we're in is not the Titanic either.
Yeah. And I'm very fortunate that I have him. He was a godsend. And he's very smart, and he's very supportive. And he took care of me when I was blind. And, he's taking care of me now. I'm having other issues and stuff. He's taking care of me. And I'm just really hopeful with this that I can, it's going to sound real cliche and hokey pokey, but I hope I can change the world. I hope I can change the way that people treat each other. I hope they don't treat each other badly like they treat these characters, because it's in the 50s and 60s in this particular book. And they didn't treat them good, and they want to get revenge, but they almost get it, and some of them do. They use moments, and they conjure up spirits, and they use voodoo and stuff. But at the very end, they end up, using their faith, But they do use the other. I do believe that they actually do all that. I don't necessarily believe they do. They do it. So they make Mommet dolls, and then they conjure up spirits from other worlds and from the ground, and so on and so forth. And there's one character, she's been in limbo, that there's an ethereal spirit that takes care of her named Ambrose Twain. Her name is Sunshine Black. She's in a lighted coffin in Peace Garden. And Myra helps him release her spirit as it needs to be released. She's been in limbo for years in a lighted coffin.
You said that you want to make this a better world.
Yes.
And I can resonate with that, because the entire reason why the X-Zone was created so many years ago was so that we could touch one heart, just one heart, each and every night. And that is still the mission of this show, is to touch a heart. And I hope that we've touched somebody's heart tonight, listening to you and getting an inspiration from you. But let me ask you this, and this will have to be the final question of the night, is what advice do you have for somebody out there who, after hearing your story, would like to become a writer?
Well, if you really believe in your heart that's what you want to do, and you can do it, first of all, you need to make sure that you have another job. You need to as my professors used to say, you need a job to support your writing habit. And I didn't quite understand that, but I know now what they mean, and that's important, because writers don't make money until they do. So don't think you're going to write a book and make $1 million. Okay. that doesn't happen. It may happen for some people, but it really doesn't happen. That's the hard truth. And write because it makes you feel better. Write because when I write, because if I don't write, I will die from the inside out.
Wow.
Yeah. I will get depressed. I will feel horrible. Cannot function. I'm not okay. That way, that's what you're supposed to do. But when I write, I feel whole. And write, write for yourself first, then the rest will come. Put yourself first. I'm preaching to the choir. I don't put myself first. My husband puts me first. He tries to, God bless him. And I don't always let him. But I like to kill myself on my first book. I had to go in the hospital. I had 72 hours to live.
Oh, my God.
I had run myself in the ground trying so hard. And you don't have to do that. Write it, put it out there. And, I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in faith, whatever your faith is. If you pray to a tree, go pray to your tree. It doesn't matter. Whatever your faith is, I pray to God. I write God letters, and that helps me. If I write something down, whatever I write down helps me. And that's the truth. Before I talked to you, I went and wrote down a whole bunch of things to God on a calendar, and wrote about you and wrote about me and asked God to lead, guide, protect, and direct me in all that I do tonight and forevermore. And that helps me. Will it help other people? I don't know. But I do believe you need to go into it with a pure heart. Don't go into it believing you're going to don't go into it for the wrong reasons, like to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Go into it to touch, like you said, one heart.
Yeah.
I want to touch the world. I'm just that way. I've said that from the beginning, and I've had people put their foot in my face and say, if you can touch one person, you're lucky. And that's true. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I just say, I want to touch. I feel like if I have, film and series and movies, that I can reach more people. That's all.
I understand that.
Read,
Well, my daughter, we've got 6 children. We've got 15 grandchildren. We've got 2 great-grandchildren. And my youngest daughter came to me and she said, Dad, do you know how to eat an elephant? I said, what? She said, Dad, do you know how to eat an elephant? I said, no, sweetheart. She said, 1 spoonful at a time. And that's how she goes through her life. She faces each challenge 1 step at a time. And, it works for her. And I think that every one of us has that coping mechanism inside. But we also have to be true to ourselves, because if we can't be true to ourselves, we can't be true to anybody else. And I believe, like you do, I believe in the power of prayer. I really do. And as much as I'd love to keep this conversation going, because I think you're a super lady, and I wish you all the best of luck with everything you do, we have to say so long for tonight. But please come back again and see us when you get your next book done. Or even if it's just to say, hey, and we can have a good old chat. I'd really like that.
Thank you.
Eileen, take care of yourself. A pleasure meeting you. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about this young lady, visit her website, eileensaintlauren.net, where you can get copies of her books. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues with hour number 2 from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. We'll be back. Don't go away.